Um, we're gonna talk about alternative ways of thinking about discovery, and another way of putting it really is going where our users are. We tend to invest a lot in discovery solutions. We are often not thinking about getting out and making the solutions that our users are already using work better. So this is a talk about a variety of ways of thinking about discovery from hopefully from a user perspective. There are many places where users begin the search. They sometimes start on a publisher platform. They sometimes start in the library discovery system. There are APIs that connect to discovery. Often, and maybe most often, from an external search engine, such as Google, from a reference manager of some sort, from a reading list, or from within a collection, right? There are a wide range of different ways that people start discovery. And I think it's crucial that as libraries and as library services, we think about all of those as we develop discovery and as we work with our users. So for years, we've been, I think, assuming that we can direct user behavior, that we can, if we build a good enough search discovery system, our users will stop using Google and they'll start using that as their starting point. And I don't think that's true, right? I think the reality is that we need to be thinking about creating and delivering a variety of different service options and solutions that will get users to the content they need from their point of wherever they begin, right? We hope that they use the library discovery system sometimes. We hope that they use the resources we invest in sometimes. But we should recognize that they're not always going to do that and be thinking about how to help them find high quality content, whether it's free or something we're licensing, wherever they happen to begin. So we're going to talk today about three challenges that we think are maybe not the only challenges, but these are challenges related to discovery. One is that users often start with Google, and sometimes Google Scholar, but how do you help them to get to quality content if they're starting from the open web? A second challenge is helping users who start their search off campus get to licensed resources, which is different than starting with Google, because starting with Google may or may not be off campus, right? But this is about getting to licensed resources wherever you happen to start if you're off campus. And then the third is about context. How do we help put discovery in context so that people find the right content for a particular need, the right material for that moment, the material at their particular level, and so on. So not sure we have all the answers. In fact, I'm sure we don't have all the answers, but hopefully we have some good ideas about some of these topics. So first of all, starting with Google. We know from usage data, we know probably from our own behavior, we know that users are going to start with Google. It's easy, it's where they search for things for everything else. Why wouldn't they start there when they have an information need? So how do we help them get to quality resources from Google? Sometimes we're talking about open access. Sometimes we're talking about a freemium model here where they get to something that is free, but then there's a payment at some point. And of course, sometimes we want them to get to licensed resources, but that's not necessarily what they need, right? If what we hope for is that they find high quality information, we shouldn't be worried about whether it's the material we've licensed for them or not. One solution that I think is really intriguing and has potential to be developed further is a variety of different publisher landing pages that help users get to quality content. These are pages that in and of themselves might be reference sources or informational sources that give them the answer to a question. But they also often link to additional published content and have ways of getting the user to the content that we've licensed for them. So Elsevier, for instance, has these topic pages that they've created by crawling through all of their chapters and articles. They provide definitions of tens of thousands of concepts and are freely available. Once you get there and you start to click to get further information, you end up behind a paywall, but hopefully you're directed to material that we've licensed and we can help get you to it. So it's just an example of one of these types of solutions. So for instance, I searched for, I like the topic of beer. It's always a good thing to learn about. And so I searched for beer and I found this Elsevier topic page. And right here, I can read a chapter. If I click on that, I'm going to get into a paywall unless I'm on campus. But it's a way that Elsevier has determined would help users get to their content. And we should be thinking about how the library can be working alongside that to make sure that we're getting them to the content that we've licensed. Oxford University Press is another publisher that does this sort of thing. If you search for immigration and crime, one of the top two things that you'll see is the Oxford Research Encyclopedia of Criminology. OUP provides free abstracts from Oxford bibliographies online and from Oxford reference encyclopedias. They make some of the articles free. This particular article on immigration and crime happens to be freely available. And in fact, 50% of Oxford's Google traffic comes from these sources, and we should be thinking about how that can help get users to library licensed content. So if you click on the Oxford Research Encyclopedia of Criminology, you end up here, and could go from that resource into other articles within that encyclopedia or into other Oxford research content and indirectly into the material that the library is licensed. Another example from science, if you search YouTube, a lot of the high entries for scientific terms or topics come from science. They've made brief videos. So on a fusion reactor, you get this fusion reactor designed in hell, makes its debut. And it takes you in and you see this video. And interestingly, if you watch this quick video about this topic, you can then go in and read an article in Science, which is pretty cool, right? So this is not necessarily something that a library has access to, but it's a way of getting users to quality content. What we haven't done yet as libraries is think about the way that we can work with publishers or work collaboratively to make sure that when this is happening, even if it's off campus, we're getting to our licensed content. But it's a start, and I think it's something that we should be thinking about and taking advantage of. Another example of how we can get library content into users' hands through Google is by bringing the library to them on the web through linked data. So if we create linked data sets that are available on the web and are discoverable through Google, often a search for a book title, for instance, will lead you to a title that is available in a particular library, and then will lead you indirectly to that library content. So there are ways that we can do this, and I think we as libraries should be thinking about every opportunity we have to try to get people who start with Google to library content. Another set of examples or another issue is getting off-campus users to licensed resources, right? So the user who starts their search doesn't realize that the things they're finding are things that we have available to them and maybe has to pay for it or maybe gets turned away. We've already been doing this in Google Scholar, right? So if you set up Google Scholar with a particular institution, it will prompt you to log in, right? So in this example, we've got University of Denver full text available to you because Google Scholar knows what we've got available, and the user can log in. But that requires the user to know that they can set that up, which they might not necessarily know. Another example from Google is CASA, or Campus Activated Subscriber Access. This is just an announcement from Project Muse, but there are lots of publishers who've implemented CASA, which is a way of authenticating on campus. Once you've authenticated on campus, you get access to all of that material off campus, whether you've authenticated again or not. And it's a time-sensitive thing. So for a month or so, even if you're not on campus, you can get in. And that's something that I think is really appealing and is a start in the direction of helping people who are off campus get to material. There are a range of different browser extensions that I think are pretty exciting that can make the process of getting to scholarly content easier. So these do require a user to set up some software. So in Chrome, they would set up this extension, for instance. Some of them provide added value, such as the ability to save a library or some sort of an enhanced reading experience. So by downloading this version, you have a reader that is better than the native PDF. There's a value in having a unified experience across platforms, right? The user sees the same icon to download a PDF wherever they happen to be, for instance. It does require them to set it up, but there's a little bit more appeal, I think, than setting up University of Denver and Google Scholar. This works across wherever you happen to be, and it has this extra value. So maybe there's some incentive for a user to set these sorts of things up. So here's an example. This is Anywhere Access from ReadCube. Once you download the extension, you have this little icon up in the corner of your browser that shows that it's there. And then I get this add to library or view PDF under anything that the library has licensed for them. Eventually, there will also be options to buy a version of it or to get to an open version as well. And so I get this view PDF, I click PDF, and there it is. It's pretty cool. Here's another example. If I go directly to a publisher site, in this case, Physical Review, I get this version where it shows me Anywhere Access over here. Here it shows that this is provided by the University of Denver. I can view the PDF, or I can download to my library, right? And this is whatever you happen to search, this set of options is available to the user once they've set up this extension. And then Copernio is another example, right? So I've got Copernio set up in my browser now. I've got these icons, these green icons for View PDF are Copernio icons. It gives me the option then, once I've set it up, to connect to my library. If I happen to be on campus, it knows that I'm on the University of Denver, and it lets me set that up. And then I can go from there. So I've still got Copernio, and I've now got Anywhere Access set up on this screen. It's getting a little cluttered, so I'll add another one, Unpaywall, right, which is up here. Unpaywall gives me this little lock on the side of the screen. This is a lock or an unlock that shows that this is a gold version of open access. If it were a green version, it would show me a green lock. If it's not available, it would indicate that it was not available in an open version. And there that is. So I've come into that version again. Okay, and then so those sorts of extensions I think are really appealing and have the potential to become something that a user just sets up automatically, right? As they are using the web in their normal course of events, they set this up, and then they always have access to the licensed library resources through this third-party option. We need to be thinking, though, beyond just Google, right? So we should be thinking about how to get into a reference manager like RefWorks, and how to integrate the library into Canvas or Blackboard or other LMSs. It's not just about Google. And libraries have been doing that, but I think we need to do some more of that. So those are just some examples and some thoughts about these two initial issues. And I'm going to turn it over to Nate now to talk about the idea of contextual discovery and some ways of helping the user find the right context for their particular need at that particular moment.
Hi, everyone. So thinking about contextual discovery, we start with the question of where are we starting and where are we going? And sometimes, considering context, there is an assumption here sometimes that the user knows where they're going, and that's not always the case. So as we look at some specific examples within discovery services, I have a few different systems that I've pulled screenshots from. I'll be highlighting features that provide sort of targeted recommendations, research guidance, ideally within the context of the user's search. So here we're looking at a number of different starting points. So looking at content sets and delivering content in the context of the user's search, of course they can go to a traditional A to Z list if they're looking for a database, but as we all know, that's really where the origin of discovery services or federated search came from. The confusion with an end user navigating a list like that, they may have a specific discipline area that they're interested in. And so there are ways that we can integrate in guidance in the context of the user's discipline. Then finally, we have this concept of resource recommendations. And this is really what I'll be focusing on as we look at examples from different discovery services. So here we're highlighting reference entries for short topic searches. So the idea here is that for certain use cases, this is a great starting point for the end user. And we have different ways that we see this happening within discovery services. So I often make the point as I'm presenting on discovery that the service should be flexible in adapting to the needs of diverse user behaviors. You can have undergrads who are new to a topic, and they'll type in something like global warming, or a very broad or ambiguous term. And so it's difficult to figure out what is the intent of the user here. So really, there are system-built ways that we can incorporate analysis of user searches to influence the results that we see within a discovery service, so that if someone were to type in sort of general terms, you'll have the results that adapt to that. And so you might lead with reference entries. But we also see specific features that will highlight reference content when someone types in this type of search. Other examples of this, there's a research starter. The user has entered in the term Rome or Rome, Italy. So presumably, they want some broad information about that topic. And so we're able to guide them to resources outside of the discovery service. So an important point here is that the discovery service is not the end-all be-all. It's not there to replace the native interface of the database itself. We want to analyze what the user is searching on and then provide them with guidance. And ideally, that guidance will be via a library managed recommendation. Here we have some additional examples of recommendations based on user searches. And in this case, we see a feature called a resource recommendation, where the library staff really taking advantage of their expertise in understanding what are the appropriate resources for an individual that's searching on this topic. There are lots of examples of this, as you can imagine. We'll often recommend that libraries analyze their usage logs and see what are people really searching for. You have all these different use cases. Somebody might be looking for a broad topic against 17th century. Who knows what it is that they're interested about in this topic? but the library staff knows that they have specific resources that address the topic. And so they can recommend either databases that would be a great starting point. Someone might search for library hours. So, of course, we had the website. In many cases, this is an appropriate place for the user to get the information that they need. Another example of this, perhaps someone is looking for a specific content type. How do we highlight and get the user to that? Again, one of the arguments that we often encounter when you're talking about discovery services is that you have this overwhelming array of results coming back, and it can be confusing, for a user that's seeing millions of hits come back. So maybe they just want to search on newspaper content or journal content. So here we see recommendations for specific databases, but also for a research guide. So you may have a LibGuide that focuses on a certain area. And for a user new to that topic or to the content type, you can really focus in and save them time and provide a path to the appropriate content using a recommendation like this. Some other examples, here we see database recommendations, but then also down below, a website. So these particular recommendations are linking directly to the platform or the website, whatever the resource happens to be, and the library has developed tag words that will trigger that result. So whenever someone types in the search, they'll see those results before they have to go through the list of relevance ranked results. Here's a really interesting example of a feature at Bowling Green State University libraries where they have this custom side panel set up so that whenever the user types in the word research, they're promoting a library service that they provide, these individual research appointments. So what a great way to really increase engagement with library staff and make your users available of library services. Thinking about, again, being able to focus the user's attention on specific content types that might be appropriate based on their search. Here we have a content-focused carousel where we're spotlighting book content. There are ways in discovery services to adjust relevancy ranking so you can promote certain content types so that you make sure that you don't have the catalog materials lost in a sea of electronic resources. But this is another way to highlight or spotlight specific content types. It might be important for that user based on their search. And there are many different ways to do this. And you can see here, the opportunity to explore library collections is another critical aspect of discovery. Again, a user that's looking for a certain body of content or looking for a topic, they might not want to just go into Discovery and get a relevance ranked results list. We want to provide them with a more tailored experience so they can go in and search for perhaps new titles if that's what they're interested in, rare books, theses, and dissertations. So here we see an example of a Boston College page where they've set up a digital collections lobby where they've, sorry, was there a question?
It was behind you.
What's that?
I think it was coming from behind.
Where they've set up a dedicated site that organizes content by collection. So we can see several of their collections here. The user could then drill down, selecting the area of content that's appropriate based on their interest. A few examples of this. Here, University of Connecticut has highlighted video and audio within their collection discovery. And then we see RMIT with an audio and video collection discovery page. And finally, here's a new titles page for collection discovery as well. Other opportunities that emerge from this approach are the ability to mine that content or do searching by title or other metadata fields, or searching the full text within those collections. We see some examples here of what we consider search expansion services. So a common approach that we see within Discovery is that you'll have mapping of terminology. So when someone goes in and they do sort of a commonly used phrase or they're searching for an acronym, the Discovery services map that to authoritative terminology. A couple examples of this here. Another approach is the idea of autocomplete, which seems simple, but really is a powerful time-saving tool and a way to expand the user's awareness of searches that other users have conducted related to their topic. Here is a focus search within all of the newspaper content at this site. So the user can go in. This will typically be placed in the header of the discovery service or in a menu so the user can go in, say, I just want to search newspaper content, or I just want to search journal content. And then they do a very focused search within that content. Maybe they're doing an ISSN limited search when they search for journal content, or just searching it against all of the newspaper content. For the right user, newspaper content is a critical asset. Within the research area, we all know that. But it can often be overwhelming if we include it by default within a results list. It can be millions of newspaper articles within a typical library collection. So oftentimes what libraries have done is to just eliminate those from the default results list. So here we see an example of a library that has taken advantage of a bracketed set of newspaper article results. So they're still able to retain visibility of the newspaper content within the single column of results in the discovery service without that content overwhelming the results and risking missing out on other content that might be valuable for the user. So the idea here is that we're enabling easier discovery of the newspaper content without having to eliminate that content, designing an interface that's very streamlined, saves user time, it allows them to select their appropriate context based on the format or content that they're interested in. Thinking about other ways that discovery services sort of support this presentation of relevant materials within the context of the user's interest, here we can see a full results page. So in this case, we've done a search and we've selected a specific article that we're interested in and incorporated into that full detail page where we have information about the article itself, some actions for interacting with that citation, are recommendations. So we think about the Amazon experience. Customers who look for this were also interested in this or purchased this item. There are ways that we can feed in recommendations for other materials and sort of provide them with a discovery path, again, in the context of their interest or their area of research. So these would be readings that are related. There's a correlation of use here that we've identified, and that's driving the presentation of these recommendations to the user. Another feature you see down below is something that's called citation trails. So in this case, the discovery service is using Crossref data to identify articles that are cited within this article as well as articles that cite this article. So we create this additional discovery path to explore related items. And Mike, you were going to discuss this example. Here we're looking at a screenshot from which is actually in use at University of Denver.
Right, so is on here. We invested in because we were really interested in this idea of thinking about different ways of doing discovery. And one of the appeals to me was that it has clear use cases on both ends of the experience spectrum, right? So if you are a brand new student, and this is what our reference librarians were thinking when we started this. If you're a brand new student and you enter a topic, here we've entered nanotechnology, and then we've created this map of concepts. If you're brand new to that topic, if you're a new researcher or a student, you can quickly visualize what that topic means, right? So you see nanotechnology, and you see the concepts that are related to nanotechnology, and you get a pretty clear sense visually of what. Sorry, I'm visualizing around the mic. So you get a pretty clear sense of what the terms are and how they interrelate. So you can learn a concept pretty clearly. At the other end of the spectrum, if you're a very experienced user and you see this map and you say, nanotechnology, I know a lot about nanotechnology, but then you say, wait a minute, I don't know anything about the Drexler-Smalley debate on molecular or something or other, right? I had never heard of that. I didn't know that was related to my concept. This is really exciting. So this is a way of visualizing those connections and finding information in a very different way. And so I think that if we can start to think about discovery in this broader context, we might be able to help our users get access to content in other ways.
So our final slide here, before we open it up for questions and discussion, is highlighting a feature that allows the user to personalize their results. If the sort of what's the ultimate in contextual recommendations? The user selects their area of interest, a discipline area. They can now guide the results that are coming back to them by activating this. And the interesting thing here, and this is something that we wanted to welcome the audience to participate in a discussion around, is how can we further this type of experience for our end users and bring in results that are truly personalized in a more intimate way? And what are the possible implications there as we're associating this experience with student information for security? And I don't know if you want to comment on that as well as we kind of open it up to the audience.
Yeah, on some level it would be ideal if the search system knew everything about you, right? It would know, in this particular context, I'm searching because I'm enrolled in this class, I got an A on my last paper, I'm a junior, I tend to like to write about this topic, or about topics from a gender perspective, right, or whatever, right? If it knew that from me because it's got access to my grades, it has access to all my past papers, it knows what I've checked out before, it knows what I've read. There's a lot of power in giving me just what I need, but that's terrifying in a lot of ways as well, right? And so what is the right balance between what a system might know about you to help you find the right information, and there being too much that the university then knows more than you want the university to know about you. And certainly we see this in our lives every day, where you search for airline tickets and suddenly Facebook is telling you about that place that you've just been searching for. But there's also some value to that, right? In that you search for this thing and suddenly the systems that you're in understand that you're interested in that concept.
As we were, yes, please. Yeah.
I was sort of tasked to find.
And there's a mic there if you wouldn't mind.
I'm Danielle Loy. I'm at New York Medical College, and my director asked to find a vendor who would make a portal page for patrons to go to that would have structured content for them, so that they can see the journals that they get or searches. So this is sort of kind of that same concept. And is this Summon? What?
We have examples from a few different systems.
Oh,
so
okay.
What we're looking at up here in the screenshots are a mix of Summon, Primo, and EDS, as well as Uno, which Michael mentioned. What we're looking at right here is Primo. Any other questions or comments or any thoughts on the discussion topic? Yes, please.
Hi, Lucy Harrison, Galileo. So I'll be talking tomorrow morning about our move to Open Athens, which is going to allow us to potentially gather some of these attributes from as many attributes as we're willing to share. And we've seen the gamut from, I'll share anything, from IT departments at universities, we'll share whatever, to, well, we're going to need to talk about that. But I think that that's going to give us the ability to present a personalized option down the road, perhaps a little bit, out of the gate. But the challenge we have in Galileo is we don't have patrons who are just university students. We've got patrons who are university students, who are also public library patrons, all within the, and maybe an adjunct at a private higher ed. So how do we combine those roles, or can we combine those roles? How do we allow the patron to not be scared off by the level of personalization, to opt out from personalization in some ways, to choose what they want to personalize? So we're thinking maybe a bento box kind of approach where, and make it clear that it's being personalized, but then give them the option to depersonalize, make changes as necessary. And we know that not all of our institutions are going to pass the same level of data attributes as well. I don't know that we're ever going to get their grades.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting, and it's and I think we're going to see more and more of these sorts of decisions that we're going to have to make, right? And if you opt for too much or too little personalization, what does that mean in terms of your, well, I guess if you opt for too little personalization, what does that mean for your ability to use a system that is designed around personalization? And I don't know the answer to that, but I do worry about it, and I also, while worrying about it, hope that we can figure out ways of doing this in a responsible way, because I think it's beneficial to our users to be able to have that level of personalization in many cases, and certainly in terms of authentication, and being able to get into resources wherever you happen to be.
Tim Strawn from Cal Poly. I like everything except up to this point. And what I worry about is, so just thinking about our institution, which is largely, it's an undergraduate institution, but you're an engineering major, you have general ed requirements that they try to get in their last quarter of senior year. And so it's building all this information about you as a mechanical engineer, and you've got a paper to do on global warming, something really general, but you want philosophy. Well, so the idea of a well-rounded undergraduate education, I don't know how that helps it, helps people blossom and get a well-rounded, holistic approach, or it narrows them and keeps them into this road they're on. It's just a worry.
We were talking this morning.
I still like it.
About the idea of the filter bubble, right? So you have a search engine that is so personalized, it has analyzed your behavior and limited your results on that. One of the most powerful reasons for having a discovery service is the opportunities to provide sort of cross-disciplinary results, expose users to a broad range, regardless of database, and users naturally would want to sort of simplify results, so they may facet against certain database titles that they're familiar with. But again, we want to ideally expand their view.
Right. Yeah. And I think that when you, in this example, if it knows that I'm a history major and returns things correctly for my history courses, that's great. But when I'm taking my gen ed whatever course, if it's only returning history material to me, that's a problem. And I think about Amazon. Amazon is really good at suggesting things to me as long as I'm using it to search for things for me. When I use Amazon to search for things for the library, it becomes a useless suggester, right? And if you think about this in that same way, you need to be controlling. If you were to try to personalize, you have to be personalizing it in a way that doesn't give you either doesn't give you too much or you don't want it to give you too much and you don't want it to give you too little. Right, there you go, yeah. I just want it to give me exactly what I want at exactly that moment for exactly that need, right? That's easy.
Yes.
I'm a publisher. I'm with the National Academies Press, so we have a weekly email that we send out to 300,000 people, and when you sign up, you're supposed to opt in to the topics you want, because not everybody wants everything,
Right.
Except that most people do want everything. We found that very few people actually choose a topic. Most of them check the box that says, I want everything. So.
Interesting.
Thank you.
So I think we're at the end of our time.
We are. I know there was there one other person who wanted a question? Okay, great. All right. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.